Hello everyone, welcome to another Scratch tutorial. In this Scratch tutorial, we're going to be learning how to code the entire Pong game in Scratch. So, to start, delete the Scratch Cat sprite because we're not going to need him today, and then go into the costume library and search up Paddle. That'll get us a nice Paddle sprite. Next, we have some initialization to do. So drag to when green flag clicked, then do go to x negative 200, y 0, and then point in direction 0. By pointing in direction 0 and not 90, it allows us to get a vertical paddle instead of a horizontal one, which will work better for the Pong game. Next, we need to make it so that we can move our paddle up and down with the up and down arrow keys. So, drag out a forever loop and then get if key up arrow pressed and if key down arrow pressed. If the key up arrow is pressed, we'll change y by 5. And if the key down arrow is pressed, we'll change y by negative 5. Simple enough, and now we have a basic movement system. However, there is a bug. We can move off screen. As you can see, only a small portion of the paddle is visible. The easiest way to fix that is to make a variable called last y and then set it to the y position before the movement scripts. Now, if we're touching the edge, we'll just backtrack to where we were before the move that made us touch the edge. Like this. Now we cannot go off screen anymore. Okay, good enough. Now we need to duplicate the sprite to create a computer paddle. However, initialize by going to x positive 200 instead of negative 200, and if we're touching x, go to x positive 200 as well. And remove the up and down arrow key scripts as well. Actually, remove all the scripts in there. Okay, well, we're already 2 minutes into the video, so let's start getting a ball sprite. In the ball sprite, we need it to bounce around and go to the center. So in the initialization script, we have to go to x0, y0, and point in direction random. The reason we can't just point in direction 90 is because we don't want it to be so obvious where the ball's going to go before the game starts. Also, we need to set the size to 50% because the ball is a bit too big as is. Okay, that works. However, we also need to move around. So we need a forever, move 10 steps, and if on edge bounce. Now, as you can see, the ball will move around and bounce off edges. However, we need the speed to start out lower, and we also want our ball to speed up as the game goes on, if we really want a good Pong game. So make a new variable called speed, and at the beginning, set speed to 5. Then do move speed steps. We now have the exact same thing earlier, just with a slower speed. However, we can also accelerate our speed by changing speed by 1 every time. Now, of course, 1 is a bit too fast of an acceleration, as you can see here. Is 0.1 a good acceleration? No, that's also much too fast. In fact, for me, the best acceleration is 0.003. However, if this still feels too slow or fast for you, you can adjust it later on until you hit your own sweet spot. Okay, so that's all nice and good. However, we also need it to interact with the paddles. So how do we make it so that it bounces off paddles? Well, the answer is simple. Point in direction 360 minus direction. Let's test it out. And it works. The reason why it works is because if we are going at direction 270 at the left and we hit it, we now go in direction 90. And whatever other angle you go in, as long as you're hitting a vertical surface, you'll always want to bounce off in 360 minus the original direction you were coming from. It just works like that, as that's the mathematical formula for it. Now, that's not nice and good. However, there is still a bug. What happens if I hit it at the bottom of the paddle? It will take some time. Oh yeah, and it also goes through, but as you can see here, if I get it I need to clip it, hold on. Oh, did you see it right there? It continued bouncing crazily inside the paddle. So how do we fix that? Well, we need a repeat until not touching computer paddle or our paddle. Repeat until we're not touching anything. We need to move one step after changing our direction. And we need that to all happen instantaneously. So make a new custom block called move out of paddle and make it run without screen refresh. And also, it's not just our paddle, it's also the computer's paddle. So if touching paddle or touching computer paddle, or is a very important thing to put there. The or is very important. Okay, so now we've got basic paddle bouncing. Wait, did it just move through the paddle? Let's check for bugs. Oh, it just moved to the, oh. Epic fail. Okay, so I accidentally did touching paddle or touching paddle, but now it works. So once we've got that working, what's next? Well, the answer is we need it so that once it hits the edges, it scores. But before we do that, let's make it so that the computer paddle will chase the ball. So first, let's make a variable called computer want y change. The reason we just have to do all this complicated stuff and we can't just do set y to ball y is that would mean if we did set y to ball y, it would A, be impossible to beat the computer paddle, and B, the computer paddle might sometimes move faster than the human paddle can at 5 pixels per tick, which is kind of cheating. So first we have to measure how much the computer wants to move in the y direction. That is the ball's y position minus the paddle's y position. However, there's a problem. There's no sensing block for the ball's y position, so we have to store it in a variable ourselves. Okay, now we have the ball's y position in the ball y position variable, so we can access it here. So the idea of this is, if the ball's y position is higher, the computer wants to move a positive amount of y and move up, and vice versa. So this is how much the computer wants to change. And as you can see, sometimes that is super high. However, we can't just jump there. So if our computer y position is below -5 or greater than 5, we need to just set it to the minimum or maximum. Now the computer cannot cheat by moving more than 5 pixels in a single tick. And now, of course, we can do change y by computer want y change. Now good. Now the computer can never cheat and go faster than we could. However, there's another problem. Our paddle sometimes also moves off screen. So we'll have to use the same last line logic for the computer paddle. Now the computer paddle can't go off screen either. Okay, now we've got our computer and human paddle movements. So now the next clear goal is we need it so that once the ball hits the edges, it gives a certain player a certain amount of points, and that the ball resets every time. So we need a blue little rectangle on the left and a red little rectangle on the right of the screen. This will just make it easier to detect whether the ball has touched the edge or not. And now we have to replace a few things in the ball sprite. So instead of a forever loop, we have to do repeat until touching color blue or touching color red. Because we have to keep on going, but only while those are true. You can use the eyedropper to get the exact colors. So only until those things, only while they're not touching those, does the sprite loop continue going. Now, once we are touching one of the two colors after doing this script hundreds of thousands of times, maybe thousands or hundreds, then our color will be touching blue or red. So if we are touching the blue color, that means the computer has scored on us. And now that we think of it, we actually need two more variables, computer score and player score. If it's touching blue, we change the computer score by 1, and if it's touching red, the only other possibility, we change player score by 1. And now there's one more change, because we need it to reset once someone scores. So we need to make a new message called ball start. And instead of starting and moving the ball as soon as the green flag is clicked, we do it when I receive ball start. Now, we keep on going in an infinite loop because once someone scores, we redo the whole process over again until someone else scores. And when the green flag is clicked, we wait 1 second to give the players some reaction time. And that's about it. We've got the basic Pong code down. The ball moves, there's winning and losing, and we can reset. Now, as you may have seen already, there was a part 1 in the top left corner. That's because Pong is a very complicated game. It's really simple, but the code is kind of complicated. For example, in Pong, you don't just bounce off. You also need to bounce at a steeper angle based on where you hit the paddle. And also, to make the game fun, you need a main menu, lose screens, win screens, a score at which the players win, and much, much more. So more will be done in part 2 and part 3. But for now, this is it. But until I make parts 2 and 3, please be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss a single Scratch tutorial.